Well, can the Orange and Blue put together their first three-game winning streak of the season? We'll find out as we get you set for the Oilers and Kraken on the Oil Stream pregame show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show as we get you set for the Oilers and the Seattle Kraken. Tom Gazzola at the EST Satellite Studios in downtown Edmonton, just outside of Ice District. YouTube Trev holding things down back at our EST HQ. Matt Kassian will be joining us shortly with Game Changers, and we'll also get a visit from Mike Benton from the Kraken Audio Network to give us the scoop on the 5-8-3 Seattle Kraken. The Edmonton Oilers, of course, now at 4-9-1 after back-to-back victories. First time we could say that all season. The Oilers looking to make it 3 straight. Can they do it? Will they do it? We'll find out. I like their chances. They seem to be playing a little bit more composed of late. And if that continues into tonight against Seattle, then we're having a nice post-game show. If it doesn't, all hell breaks loose yet again. It is game number 15 on the season. It's been a tumultuous one for sure. YouTube Trev, come on in, pal. How are you holding up? What do you think about tonight?
Yeah, I'm super pumped for the game. I'm pretty positive. Like I've got good hopes for the game. The first you said it, for this could be the first 3-game win streak of the season. I think they learned a lot from last game. I think that's the Oilers we all got so used to seeing last season. The power play looked way better. Connor and Leon, that was the Connor and Leon of old. So I do expect the same today. I don't see why they'd take a step back. So yeah, very, very happy thoughts for tonight's game, Tommy. Big win coming up. I'm calling it now.
All right, I like it. I like the good mojo and flow going. And we'll see if that does translate into the action on the ice tonight. As always, you can hit us up via our text line if you're on your way to the game listening to our audio stream. Maybe you're on the TuneIn app. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. You can reach us by texting us at 780-218-9999. If you're watching, thank you as well. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff on YouTube. And smash that thumbs up button as well. You can get in on the nasty chat. Glenn's in there, says LFG, Tommy. Zedmo likes what the Oilers are putting together. He's got a 5-2 Oilers prediction. And then Connor says, suits looking extra fresh right now. Yeah, thank you. I haven't worn this one this season. Feels good. Feels good. A little toit in the pants. Means I need to get an activation or two in. But look good, feel good, play hard, all that good stuff. Hopefully good results. All right, Cass will be joining us with Game Changers in about 7 minutes or so. We'll get to Mike Benton, who I spoke with earlier. So that pre-tape, we'll run that around about 6 or close to 6 o'clock, somewhere around there, ballparking. We will go inside the Oilers locker room. We will go inside the Kraken locker room as well. We'll hear from at least one former Oiler, maybe a couple of former Oilers, and then obviously from some current Oilers as we head into tonight's Pacific Division showdown. Second time in 5 days that these two teams lock horns. The Oilers have been pretty good against Seattle since they've come into the National Hockey League 2 years ago. 6-2 record overall. And Edmonton 2-1 all-time at home against Seattle. The Oil 2-4-1 at I can't even say at Rogers Place, at home this year, because one of those wins came at Commonwealth Stadium. A great night against the Calgary Flames at Commonwealth in the Heritage Classic. The Kraken, meanwhile, 3-3 on the road. So send us your thoughts, your comments, 780-218-9999. I'll throw out the question of the night also in the nasty chat too. You can hit us up. Let's get your thoughts. Have the back-to-back wins restored any of your faith in the Oilers to get the season on track again? 780-218-9999, or via the nasty chat. Have the back-to-back wins restored any of your faith in the Oilers to get the season on track again? Me personally, I like what I'm seeing. Will it translate into getting the season back on track? I don't know. I think tonight will be pivotal in determining that. 5 9-1 looks a heck of a lot better than 4-9-1. A 3-game winning streak going into a 4-game road trip is also good momentum as well. Some tough games coming up out east, and we'll see if the Oilers are able to navigate some tough waters out there, but they're going to need a big win tonight against the Seattle Kraken. YouTube Trev, what say you, pal?
Yeah, if Leon's skating like he was last night, it should be, the one thing they've got is they've beat this team before. Like, I don't know if the players, talk about that before a game, but if I'm a player going into the game, I'm gonna be like, guys, we beat these guys before. Let's go do it again. So there's that. As far as has it changed my thoughts, eventually the puck was gonna start going in. They had pretty bad puck luck for the majority of the season there, and that's ultimately all I think it was, Tommy. And unfortunately, it did lead to the Oilers getting a new bench boss. But is that what they needed? I think they looked just as good as against the Islanders as they did in Seattle. So it's it could have just been that's. Like timing, it could have just been timing. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, like this is a pivotal win. It's a 4-point game, and it's gonna tell a lot. But the Oilers, they should, regardless, they should play a good game, and they should come out on top. You look at the rosters, you look at the team, they beat them before. It should be a good game. But I mean, the Oilers, they look way better in the last 2 games than they did to start the season. So I'm excited to see it. It's going to be an entertaining game.
All right, 780-218-9999 and Nasty Chat. Let us know if you think that these back-to-back wins have helped get the Oilers back on track this season, if you think it's going to lead them to climbing their way out of this hole that they've dug themselves. We want to hear from you. Let's also bring in our game analyst, Matty Kassian, to the pregame show. What's up, Cass? How you doing? I like that cardigan. That's formidable.
It's warm and it's cozy, Tom, and it's cold in here. So this is this is good. This is good. We gotta clear something up though.
Okay.
They came up on the Two Guys and a Goalie podcast from the Nasty Chat on there. That you and I are not in an active competition for best hair on the station. That it is there's lots of love between us, and I fully say that your hair is better typically.
What? I would say yours is better.
You know what, Tom? You're more consistent with yours. I feel like your hair is more consistent. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we don't fight over it. It's not an issue. It doesn't cause relationship issues, and we're both just happy for one another when we get good haircuts.
I'm just glad I still have hair. If you've
both
seen my dad or met him, you would know. It's good to still have it. Anyway, Cass, I think your hair looks tremendous tonight, and we all have fresh cuts. YouTube Trev as well. Everybody's got a fresh cut. Yeah.
Nice,
so here we
Trev.
are.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all looking pretty spiffy tonight, not gonna lie.
All right. I love it. 780-218-9999. Cass, before we dive into game changers, let's go over starting lineups for the Oilers and the Kraken for Edmonton tonight. This is what we're expecting. Today's morning skate was an optional, and a lot of the vets did not take the morning skate. McDavid between Nugent Hopkins and Gagne, Draisaitl with Kane and Hyman, McLeod with Fogle and Ryan, Hamblin with the recently recalled Adam Ernie, and recently recalled, even though he played last game, Raphael Lavoie. On defense, you've got Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with CC, Kulak with Desharnais. On LTIR, formally now, Matthias Janmark, shoulder issue, and Dylan Holloway is on LTIR. Connor Brown has been skating. He's getting close, not ready to go just yet. So you're up to speed on the Oilers side of things. Any comments or critiques there, Cass, before we get into game changers when talking about the Oilers before we dive into the Kraken next?
No, you got a little bit of flexibility now, it seems like, with some of the moves and players going to LTIR. I mean, unfortunate, I think, for Dylan Holloway, who the last 2 games had finally shown us, like, hey, this guy can play and play in a manner that is going to bring him success and help bring the team success in a bottom 6 role. So really, really unfortunate for him. Looked like he was starting to turn a corner and figure it out over the last couple of games at least. So too bad that he's out. I mean, the Lavoie move, I mean, just a paper transaction to save a couple bucks.
Yep.
Something that NHL teams do all the time. And I mean, hey, listen, you're going to see a little bit of a continued look here, hopefully at these lines, try to get some of that consistency that Knoblauch talked about. We'll see what happens with it.
All right. As for the Seattle Kraken, you got Matty Beniers between Jared McCann and Jordan Eberle, who returns after getting cut on his leg. We talked about that on Saturday with Everett Fitzhugh. So Eberle good to go in his return to Edmonton, or one of his many returns to Edmonton. Alexander Wenberg between Jaden Schwartz and Brandon Tanev, who also makes his return. Brandon Tanev did not play in that game Saturday against the Oilers. Yanni Gourde centering Eli Tolvanen and Oliver Bjorkstrand. And then you got Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who did not play on Saturday as well, between Ty Cartier and Kyler Yamamoto. Yamamoto, if you'll recall, was on the first line in that game Saturday, now bumped down to the fourth line. For the Kraken on the blue line tonight, Vince Dunn paired up with Adam Larson. Who's going to fight Dylan Holloway now? Or who's going to fight Vince Dunn now? Jamie Alexiak with William Borgen, and then Brian Dumoulin with Justin Schultz out for the Kraken on IR. Andre Burakovsky with an upper body issue. No Jacob Magna as well. That brings us to starting goalies. 25-year-old Stuart Skinner getting the nod for the Oilers. 3-5-1 on the season. 327 goals against average. 876 save percentage in 10 games this year. 4-2-0 record versus Seattle with a 323 GAA, 890 save percentage in 6 career games against the Kraken. As for that Seattle Kraken squad, they will roll out 27-year-old Joey Decord, 2-2-3 this season, 289 GAA, 903 save percentage in 8 games this year. Lifetime versus the Oilers, Decord with an 0-3 mark, 386 goals against average, 868 save percentage in 4 games versus the Oilers over the course of his career. Philip Grubauer has gotten touched up, cast by the Oilers quite a bit. Joey Decord, 0 versus Edmonton. He's had 4 appearances against the Oilers. Obviously came in relief of Grubauer Saturday after Grubauer gave up 4 in that first period. Should be interesting. See if the Oilers can take advantage of this, although I guess you can make the argument that Decord's probably the better goalie against Edmonton thus far this season, but we'll see. Are you surprised that they didn't go back to Grubauer for this one?
Maybe a little bit surprised. Although, Decord didn't give up anything against Edmonton the rest of that game, and so that's maybe the thought is, hey, he played well the rest of that game. We liked some of the rest of that game. Let's run with a guy that's had some better success. Although both guys, maybe had some issues over the last couple of years against the Oilers. So I think they're both serviceable goalies. Really, like it's not like there's a massive gap, I think, between Grubauer and Decord.
Right.
But I mean, they're just maybe going with the confidence angle.
Could very well be the case when it comes to the Kraken looking at starting Joey Decord tonight. All right, let's get into game changers with our game analyst, Matt Kassian, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting, RE/MAX Elite. Damon Bunting, consistent top producing realtor in Greater Edmonton and among RE/MAX realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Community driven, Damon understands what it takes to make a difference in our city. Check him out on DamonBunting.com or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Number 1 on Game Changers tonight, Cass, angles.
The angles are all around us. The angles we need are all around us. Edmonton Oilers in Knoblauch's first practice as head coach running drills, spent a lot of time working on angles. And this to me is something that makes sense to work on, because if you watch the Oilers video and if you've watched the Oilers games, or if you just look at the statistics, their rushes against have been absolutely atrocious. And one of the things that has plagued them has been the back checking forwards, either missing assignments or going to the wrong guys or not communicating. And working on angles, coming back into your own zone is a big part of that. Huge part of that actually is identifying, either getting the proper angle so that your defenseman knows you're going to be able to get to the player to force a play, or knowing with your angles that you can't get to somebody. I mean, that's part of reading and reacting to the play. It's part of identifying the threats, and it's part of how you stop rush chances against, which we've seen time and time again this year just be a huge issue for the Oilers. So, working on those angles, and I know it's one practice. It's just one practice, but having the ability to improve on that area, I think is pretty big for this team. So I like the idea that they're working on it. I'm hoping that it starts to have an impact or make an impact right away for this group in terms of what they're able to do on the rush defense against.
All right, number 1 on game changers for Cass tonight. Angles. Number 2, protect the house. This one's important.
This one's really important too. Again, an area where at times they have struggled, but Knoblauch has talked already at his press conferences about this, about making sure that they're good in front of the net. So just continue to support, not letting those plays through to the back door, ensuring that they are finding and eliminating the biggest threats, clearing out pucks, protecting the house, protect the front of the net, help Stuart Skinner out here tonight. If we're again looking at areas that they can improve on, that's a really big one that they can continue to improve on. So something I want to see tonight is just a continued presence in front of their own net, doing a good job of identifying the threats, not giving anyone any freebies.
All right, that was number 2 on game changers. Protect the house. Number 1 was angles. Number 3, Skinner's crease. And I see you and Do Fish P in the nasty chat going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I went with the passive aggressive route, which is probably my favorite to do. It's just okay, period.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Do Fish P throwing out a Skinner gets lit up tonight. Possibly a Seattle fan, maybe just a disgruntled Edmonton fan. I don't know.
Perhaps.
He follows it up by saying Holloway is a big loss, which I agree with. He has been playing very well, but Stuart Skinner is a big part of this game, and that's point number 3. I mean, it's Stuart Skinner's crease to continue to run with this here, to continue to get starting opportunities, to continue to be the guy for the Edmonton Oilers. Now we've seen improvement, and I'm not sure if the improvement is just Stuart Skinner's play or if it's some improvement on the team in front of him the last 2 games, but it needs to continue. I think if we look back at both 2 games on this win streak, there have been moments, and we've texted each other about this, Tom. There have been moments when Stuart Skinner has made that save.
Yep.
He's made that save where it's like, oh, that was the save that everyone maybe complained about before, maybe they weren't getting before, that people were grumpy or frustrated about. He has made those saves. And so I think he needs to continue to do that, continue to build the confidence. I think stringing 3 wins together for him would be absolutely massive, not just for the team, but for Stuart Skinner.
The sequence in the third period where Skinner rattled off 3 saves in a row in tight, and then there was a face-off to his left, and right after the face-off, he made another big save. So 4 really big saves is what I think back to being an important part of that save that you're describing, Cass. So Stuart Skinner obviously going to need to come up big once again. But yes, he seems to have put together a solid pair of games here. And that's a perfect example of him making it happen and doing so. So there we go. Game changers tonight. Angles. Number 1, protect the house. Number 2, Skinner's crease. Number 3, where do you come out on having to start Calvin Pickard? This was a question that came up probably in 2 guys and a goalie. And then it did come up this afternoon on Oil Stream as well.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you're probably looking to start him against Washington, and you need to play him eventually. You need to give Stuart Skinner a break eventually. He's not going to play every game the rest of the season. And to me, Washington is probably the one. Now, I know they've had some success the last couple of games, but Eastern Conference team, not a division game. You have a whole swath of tough games coming up on your Eastern swing through Florida. And to me, I think that's probably when you're going to roll him out, because you have to get him out there at some point. And so I think just schedule wise, the way it has been constructed is right now, Stuart Skinner can play these games. He can play them, but you will need to give him a break at some point. To me, it makes the most sense that it's that Washington game.
I actually said the same thing, Cass. Great minds think alike. Your hair better than mine tonight, according to Zedmo. I concur with that, Zedmo. Let's go to the inbox. Jasmine says, Tommy, definitely taking the over on tonight's game with a win. Jasmine, let's see if that happens. That would be highly entertaining. I wouldn't mind that after what was generally a boring game the other night against the Islanders. Big Uke chimes in, says, I would like to see the offense get the cycle working and not have so much one and done zone entries. Lots of shots are great, but when they are in the crest from the outside, it doesn't really matter. And Cass, Big Uke brings up a good point. We haven't seen a ton of cycling and possession in that regard when it comes to the Oilers in the offensive zone compared to years past. What's going on there? Is it just straight up that they're not able to execute on the cycle, or there's an unwillingness to even bother to try to establish it and get that presence in the offensive zone?
Well, I think to me, it starts with their zone entries. And it starts with they haven't executed as well as they would like or historically have done on the rush. Like, because this team, if you look at, Leon and Connor in particular, they are rush offense players. They play a different style than like a Sidney Crosby, who's a get puck possession, spin off of a guy, create some space, make a pass and score a goal. I mean, that's Sidney Crosby style hockey. I mean, he is at his best when he has a puck on his stick with offensive zone time possession off of the cycle. The Edmonton Oilers, necessarily historically, but with McDavid and Draisaitl, they are a rush team. Now, they haven't had a ton of success off the rush. Right. And I think not having a ton of success, turning pucks over, that has led, missing the net. We've seen a lot of that, missing the net in the far side in particular, which basically, I don't want to say guarantees a breakout for the other team, but it increases that likelihood dramatically. We've seen a lot of that. And I think some of the zone time issues is when you're more threatening off the rush, well, all of a sudden you're forcing the other team back. You're forcing them to collapse more to the net. And the likelihood of you recovering a puck and all of a sudden being set up to have that zone time gets higher. It gets higher. So I think for me, having good zone entries is where they will excel or increase that offensive zone time and be able to actually create off of it. And second to that, I mean, when you have the puck, you have to skate it across the blue line. I think we have seen, and I haven't looked at the actual analytics. Again, they're good descriptors. For everyone that says I hate analytics, I don't hate them. I think it can be a good descriptor to take a peek at it. And I wouldn't be surprised and I haven't looked at this one in particular, compared to last year, that they have chipped the puck in more and kind of gone chip and chase at times. Yeah. And that's just execution problems, right? Where they haven't moved the puck to the forwards well enough and come with enough speed or aggression through the neutral zone. And they end up just having to chip it in and go after it. And then, you're in 50-50 puck battles instead of actually having that possession. So to me, that offensive zone possession, working off the cycle, it all starts with the rush, Tommy. All starts with the rush.
All right. Well, we'll see if the Oilers can tweak that, make it for the better. I know that Chris Knoblauch today was talking about implementing some little tweaks here and there, and let's see if some of that takes really early on. Cass, how hard is it when a new coach comes in and basically gets parachuted in the day before a game and has to get right into the swing of things on the fly like that to actually implement any type of real change to system work or plan of attack or offensive zone strategy? I know he talked about neutral zone stuff and some D zone stuff the other day, but I mean, how long and how do you go about getting that into the system when you've already been working on a new system? Not too much success if you're in Chris Knoblauch's case and trying to rectify that.
Yeah, well, again, I don't think it was the system that was the issue.
Right.
I still don't think it was the execution of the system that's the issue.
Fair point.
It is very different happening mid-season versus training camp, because training camp, you get a lot of practices, you have exhibition games, you can work some of that stuff through. But Knoblauch it's a tall order to change things. And that's where I think even in his language, he's talking about tweaking things. And you're not blowing everything up, and you shouldn't blow everything up. Really, you're not going to have switch to man-to-man or something like that. That would be foolish. But he's going to try to tweak things and tweak it. More, Tommy, to me, is about tweaking habits. And we talked about already on Game Changers, sponsored by Damon Bunting from Real Max.
Well done,
Elite. We talked about angles and seeing them work on specific things in practice kind of gives you, I guess, a little bit of purview into what
Mhm.
he's thinking and what he wants to work on. And from a system standpoint, the things that they're going to try to implement or maybe change slightly. So from a back checking standpoint, are you changing the rules? Who goes where when? How are you identifying people? When do you as a back checker give up chasing the puck and look to find other danger? It's maybe coming in late into the zone or holding the middle of the ice and saying, okay, well, I can't reach that guy. That's our defenseman's guy. So I have to hold the middle of the ice and find danger. And if that means I slow down, might need to slow down a little bit. I
Right.
mean, those sorts of things are what he's going to be tweaking and working on. You're not going to see, wholesale completely different, doing everything different from a system standpoint, because that's not needed. That's not needed. Now you need to improve on the execution. But you're going to try to do, as I said, little tweaks, and that's going to take some time. I mean, it's not going to happen just completely overnight. Now, with that being said, we see some positive things the last 2 games. So from a confidence standpoint, hopefully things are going to continue to move in the right direction. Hopefully we continue to see them improve in some of those areas, like the back checking, like the
Right.
tracking, and eventually in the defensive zone as well.
Cass, we saw the Oilers beat the Kraken 4-1 in Seattle on Saturday. What did you pick up on the Kraken? What did you notice? This is a team that I feel like probably isn't going to catch anybody off guard at all this season after what they did to the defending Cup champs in the first round last year.
Yeah, they're going to continue to be what they were, which is a work-based team. They're not, they have a couple skilled players, but they're not world beaters in terms of high level, dangerous, elite talent yet at this point on their team. Now they have some good young players, they have some good players. But it's a type of team where if you match their work ethic, I think frequently you can beat them. And I think a challenging thing, as you mentioned, for Seattle this year is they're not catching anyone by surprise. People know what to expect. They've had a chance to understand the type of game that they play, and go into games knowing how you as their opponent, as Seattle's opponent, have to match what they're doing. Is Seattle going to be a playoff team this year?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe,
Maybe.
maybe, maybe. They've been beaten up pretty good by injuries already. They've had some injury troubles thus far.
Yeah.
They're getting some guys back into the lineup, but I mean, certainly it's a team you have to be aware of. They're not the San Jose Sharks. Let's just leave it at that.
Right.
They're much better than the San Jose Sharks.
Speaking of the Sharks, there was a text that came into the nasty chat. I believe it was from Connor. Connor says, I was always thinking they'd still make playoffs up until the Sharks game. I want to see them at 500 quick before I'm fully convinced. Yeah, they've got some work to do. And that's a totally understandable way of thinking about it. Connor, appreciate the text. And then Austin Hockey says, I think if Edmonton can be at or better than 500 by Christmas, I'll feel real good about their second half. Lots of work to do, but I think this group has it in them. I talked to Cody Ceci yesterday, Cass, and he wasn't too worried. I know you played with Cody Ceci and you're buddies with him, so he's pretty even keeled.
He's really even keel. Yep.
Yeah, and that mentality in the room today, I picked up on as well, and I think that's a good thing. The other thing that popped up today, or a couple other things, and I'll just bounce them off of you, see what you think. Duncan Keith was there today in the locker room, hanging around. He's with the trainers. I don't know if he was in meetings or what, but he was there. And then the other thing was Chris Knoblauch and Paul Coffey, as Chris Knoblauch said, moved all the defense to sit together in the locker room on one side. Now, Ekholm and Nurse stayed in their usual stalls, and then the other guys kind of had to move around them. I think CC got to stay in his stall as well because he sat by Ekholm. But it was Bouchard and Desharnais and Kulak that basically went from one side of the room to the other. And Knoblauch described it as a communication thing. And we've heard communication being a theme early on with Chris Knoblauch at the helm, with Paul Coffey as well. So the move in the locker room, Cass, and then having Duncan Keith around today, what do you make of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, would it be shocking if Duncan Keith gets more involved at some point? in the game of hockey as a coach or player development or something, it wouldn't shock me at all in the slightest.
No.
So yeah,
No.
I mean, you want you want a guy with that pedigree around, and we saw what he did for like a young Evan Bouchard as a player, and so to have a veteran guy that's been around, that's won cups, that's going to be a Hall of Famer, having that guy around is a good thing, and it's not like he's so far removed he can't identify with the players and what they're going through or having
Right.
struggles and not winning as a team. So great to have him around for sure. I mean, if it was me, yeah, have him around all the time. Why not? If he's here, yeah, get him involved for sure.
Right.
100%. Moving guys around the room. Now that it's an interesting mindset. I mean, you're looking at things and you want to talk about systems and things you can change on the ice. This is something you can change off the ice, which is maybe not where I would have jumped to first, but you're saying, okay, we have had clearly, I would say, on ice communication issues.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's put these guys together. Let's make it easier for them to talk. Let's kind of have them associate. And if you're switching other guys around, have the forwards there. Try to build conversational community, let's call it, by adjusting where guys are sitting in the room. Now, what's interesting is, and no one's probably going to say it, is some guys really get attached to where they're sitting.
Yeah.
Some guys get really attached to where they're sitting. I think we actually had a question, and it was also from Dooffish P, about who determines where the players start in the where they sit at the start of the year.
Right.
Um, Sometimes it's the players. If you're McDavid or Draisaitl, you're picking where you're sitting, and usually they sit in the same spot and they'll stay there forever. If you're a fourth line in and out of the lineup, bubble guy like me, you sit where you're told. And sometimes it's the trainers that decide it. Sometimes it's the coaches that decide it. So there's a little bit of both. Now, I have seen more often that it's trainers that do that before. I remember my first time running into this actually was it was an exhibition game playing with Minnesota in Columbus. And
Oh.
it was just an exhibition game, but you grab your bag because you fly in the day of. Now if you fly in the night before, like most teams do during the regular season, the trainers have already put everyone's gear up. Like
Hmm.
they'll take it in. They know where guys like to sit, the trainers do, on the road. And so this was just an exhibition game, and so they had the bags in because you bring them in right as you get to the rink because they're loaded on the truck, and you go right from the airport to the rink. And I grabbed my bag and I threw it down in a spot. Just as like, oh, this spot looks good. I'm going to sit here. And had good old Tony DaCosta, the head equipment manager of the Minnesota Wild, walk
Right.
over and be like, Cass, you can't sit there. And I was like, well, why not? He's like, you can't sit there. That's Mikko's spot. And I was like, oh, okay. He just had to go, so where should I sit? And he pointed, he's like, go sit there. And I was like, okay, I'll go sit here. And it wasn't, I mean, it was a little thing, but players do kind of get attached to where they want to sit in rooms and where they feel
Ah.
comfortable. And on the road, again, like you see it on the road too, where the players will sit where they want to sit. Now, what's going to be interesting is to see if this is something they take on the road as well, not just at home, but on the road. Have the trainers been instructed to say, you know what, where guys sit in the past, that's kind of out the window.
Hmm.
Let's put all the defensemen together. Let's have everyone sitting in the same spot, and kind of same thing. Go with that intentional, communication community with players that are going to be playing together. So kind of an interesting little tidbit, Tommy.
That's pretty cool, actually, and I feel like it's a neat element to this. I okay. When it comes to this too, it didn't seem to rattle the players, Cass, because all the defense, they were in the group in the room together and they were joking around, mucking it up. So it didn't seem like they were put off by it whatsoever.
And they might not be, and I hope they're not. I mean, if they're not, it's good. Again, there's possibility that behind some guys were maybe grumbly about it, but
Okay, yeah.
but if you're again, you're framing it in a way of, no, we want you guys to work together better and to talk better, so we're going to put you together. I mean, you're spinning it as a positive, not as a punishment. Not
Right.
as a punishment. Where for me, sometimes on the road, you walk into that room, even if you don't know if you're playing or not, and you you see where your stall is, you're like, yeah, well, it's tucked away in the corner with the kind of in the bad spot, not
Yeah.
in the nice spot. You're kind of off to the side somewhere.
By the
Um,
bathroom.
in the bathroom, basically,
Yeah.
yeah. In some of the rinks, some of the older ones, anyway. So,
Yeah.
again, it's an interesting tidbit, and hopefully, it is something that you're in a year that hasn't seen a ton of positives. You're spinning it as a positive to say, hey, this is a change we can make. It may be a little change because really, it's not a huge change; it's a little change, but something that we can do. Again, not systems oriented, not anything on the ice, but off the ice to try to encourage this group to pull together.
I'm blown away by the fact that you said you grabbed your own bag. I don't think in 8 years traveling with the Oilers, I ever saw them grab their own bag. The closest thing, the practice that they had at Chelsea Piers, or the practices they had at Chelsea Piers in New York City, but they're already like fully geared, and they would just take like the bag with their gloves and their skates and then throw it down because they didn't really have locker rooms. They just got ready in the stands there. Yeah, so you actually grabbed your own bag. I
Well, it
don't
was
think I've recalled.
exhibition. It was exhibition, Tommy.
Yeah,
Again, that's not typical because usually, when you get somewhere, the trainers take the bags and the
yeah,
equipment staff, and they're the ones that take everything and unpack it and set it up. So is it a little bit of we'll call it an oddity, not something that happened all the time, but I'm
yeah.
not afraid of carrying my own bag. You
No,
shouldn't be afraid of carrying your own bag.
no, not at all, not at all. But that's pretty cool. I love the behind the scenes stuff, Cass. Fantastic work as always, my friend. I know you've got some errands to attend to, so take care of business, and then we'll catch up with you on the post game show.
Absolutely, buddy. I look forward to it.
All right. Likewise, that is Matt Kassian, our game analyst with Game Changers, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. Check them out if you're looking to get into the market, buy or sell your home. DamonBunting.com or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. All right, let's get to a few texts, and then we're going to get to our first bit of video and audio from the Oilers locker room. Dofish P, you are all over the nasty chat. You're feeling it tonight. Appreciate that, but keep it PG-13. This text is from Evil Twin. Says hello from the driving range. Lucky. I saw Kent Morrison, our good friend from CTV, golf today. Lucky indeed. Andy Pandy says, realistically, how do you think this group will do on their first significant Eastern road trip starting in Tampa on Saturday? I think that they can get two wins out of there. If they go 2-1-1, not the greatest, but I think that's satisfying, Andy Pandy, because they're going to be in tough against Tampa for sure, and then Florida, absolutely, although they have success there. And Carolina always gives them a good run. So we shall see. You got to win in Washington for sure. But with this team this year, you never know. They have lost to the San Jose Sharks, and I will remind everyone of that all year long, unless they go on an absolutely ridiculous heater to wash away the stink from that loss last week. Keep those texts coming in. 780-218-9999 or in the nasty chat if you're watching on the YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up button if you're just joining us. We really, really appreciate it. En route to 6,000 subscribers on the Edmonton Sports Talk YouTube channel. We're doing pretty darn good. Freezer Bag's been chiming in all day, but joins us tonight and says the Freezer Bag calls it a win tonight. Another text comes in. Jay in the park says, good day, fellas. I don't want to pick on Jack Campbell because he obviously struggled, but my question is, at what point do you keep going to Rodrigue, both from a goalie development stance and trying to return the Condors to a winning record? Ooh, Jay in the park, it's going to be a balancing act for Colin Chalk and obviously Sylvain Rodrigue, Sly Rodrigue, who's Olivier Rodrigue's dad, is the goalie coach down in Bakersfield. So, I don't know. Obviously, the goal is to win, to create a winning atmosphere and environment, to demand success and striving for the best and being a championship caliber team. But in the AHL, and I think, you're going to hear a little bit about it from Chris Knoblauch coming up right away. There's that balancing act, and you have to kind of pander to the big club and play some guys that they want to be played, and it might come at the sacrifice of players who are playing better or guys that you think should be in certain spots. That is part of the battle in the minors. So I think they're going to have to find that happy medium, and they're going to have to keep getting Jack Campbell out there because he's a diminished asset, obviously, for the organization. They want to try to spark some life into his career, and it's not taking right now, obviously. And at the same time, you've got spark in the life of the career of Olivier Rodrigue, and you want to keep that going. So that's a tough one. But I think game by game, they'll try to determine and figure it out, which is not an easy task, but dealing with AHL coaches, going down, covering AHL teams in years past, I know that they would always complain some coaches about having to play this guy on, special teams, and that guy has to sit, or, they had to rotate who would be a healthy scratch, even though guys were veteran AHL/NHL guys. It can be frustrating, and it could be a little bit puzzling at times, but it's a battle that every AHL coach has to deal with. And no different here in the case of Jack Campbell and Olivier Rodrigue. Great question, Jay in the Park. Really appreciate that. 780-218-9999. YouTube, Trev, let's get to our first bit of audio and video. We'll go inside the Oilers locker room, and it is first up, Chris Knoblauch, the new head coach.
Maybe a bit easier because they just saw this team. So how much do you dig back into that game and sort of game plan through that?
Yeah, no matter if you're a new coach coming in with a team or a returning coach, you always want past experiences used against to prepare your team for the game. And just the fact that they played them just a few days ago, obviously that's a big part of getting prepared for this game. And teams obviously make changes, but you want to make the games that recent biases or recent games as much as possible.
Hey, Chris. Dylan Holloway's had such bad stretch of luck since he's, from the wrist injury on. Just can you give us an update and how long is long term for?
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate, and it sounded like he was starting to build a pretty solid game. Obviously, he had a really strong one in Seattle. I was very impressed with how he was playing in my game, and unfortunately, crashed in the boards, injured, and lower body, and he's week to week. Excuse me, week to week.
Now you have three new players coming up. I imagine this is kind of similar to the American Hockey League. We got guys coming in and out all the time. And how do you kind of incorporate the three new guys and to just meet them today type thing?
Yeah, no, I did just meet them today, and there is a lot of fluctuation with the lineup. In the American League, it's often you might be losing your lower end guys that are going to the East Coast, but a lot of times it's your top guys who are going to the NHL, which you're changing your special teams so much. And here it's just not so much. But yeah, no, Adam will be going in tonight. He will be playing left wing, and Broberg will be as an extra. So obviously having the seven defensemen as we head out on the road trip will be good for us.
And just the last one for me. Your predecessor was a big 11-7 fan. I just wondering how you about that.
Excuse me?
He's a big 11-7 fan. He played 11 forward, 7.
Yeah.
I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's difficult. Having 11 forwards, it's nice when you've got some guys that take up a lot of ice time. Draisaitl, McDavid, double shifting those guys. Tampa Bay did that quite a bit. 7 defensemen. I know the defense coaches often don't like it because it takes away the flow of their game. It's nice having the defensemen playing with their partners and having that stability of that. And when you have 7, it just changes that up. Now, there's benefits on how you split that up with special teams. If you've got guys who are really good at penalty kill, or maybe you've got a group of 6 that you're very solid with, and you need another penalty kill defenseman. I don't know. It all depends on the situation, and more importantly, what your D group look like.
Chris, you're the assistant coach for Dave Hackstall in Philadelphia. Can you look back to that and what it was like?
I've got a lot of respect for Dave. I think he's an outstanding coach. I think he's got a calm demeanor behind the bench, but he's very passionate and very knowledgeable at the game. And I think he connects well with his players. And my time there, I think I learned a lot from him, and a lot of the way I coach is a lot of what I saw from him my 2 years that I got to work with him. So I have a lot of respect for him, and feel nice to beat him tonight. But I do know that I assume his mom will be coming at the game, and I know she will be cheering for me because she is a die-hard Oilers fan. So I know I've got that.
What did you know about Dave before you got the job? I mean,
I didn't
junior.
know Dave at all. I didn't know Dave at all. I previously met Ron Hextall. I think Ron had introduced or recommended me to Dave, and I had an interview with him, and it worked out well. It's worked out really well for me to get that opportunity.
You said you learned something from Dave. What did you learn?
Just the preparation of day-to-day, what it takes to be an NHL coach, of the managing of the staff, the players, the schedule, what type of practices to have, how much players can, what kind of information they need for that meeting, or when's too much and when's too little. So just those nuances of the day-to-day business.
Good. Thank you.
Chris, just wanted to clarify the lineup. You said that so Lavoie and Ernie would be in, and Broberg and Brown are out. Is that correct?
Yes, no, Brown's not quite ready. We hope when we hit up the road that he will be in, but unfortunately tonight, he's not playing.
Yeah, and Skinner will go for you again?
Skinner will be our starter.
All right. What would Chris Knoblauch, the coach, have thought about Chris Knoblauch, the player?
I don't know, not good enough.
Is that why coaching?
Smart, defensive-minded, just slow, doesn't get around the ice very well. I don't know.
So is that kind of why you got into coaching? It just, yeah.
If I could have played longer, I would have. I love the game. I love playing, and obviously I could have stayed in Europe and played it for a little bit, but it was start to move on, and yeah, that's how I got into coaching.
When I ask people about you, they say that you try to earn players' respect and not demand it. Why is that important to you, and how do you go about doing that?
I just treat them like people. I treat them like the way I want to be treated. I just feel that you're open, you're honest with them. It's so easy, as I know, parenting or coaching, it's so easy to point out negatives. You want a correction, you point that out, that's a negative. But so easy it's so easy to point out all the positives that they're doing, and I try and go out of my way to encourage them to be doing things the right way, and the best way is that positive reinforcement. So, it's. And then when I do need to correct something and I need to address something, I want them to know that, it is fair. He does recognize the things that I do well, so he's not just picking on me. He must have a valid point. I'll try and work on that. So it sounds like an easy philosophy. It's not that easy, but that's kind of the way I approach it.
Thanks. And just one more. I just wonder, sometimes, or a lot of times when a coach comes in mid-season, it's it's way later in the year. You're looking toward next year. Obviously, that's not the case here. So I wonder how you're trying to approach that, and if there's one or two things you're really trying to key in on to turn this around as quickly as possible.
There's no magical switch. It's nothing that's, we need to do this. I don't know. It's just the mindset of just getting better each day. And, we were approached, first couple of days was defensive zone coverage, a little bit of our line rush against. Obviously, we wanted to become better defensively, giving up more or fewer chances. But we want to get better on our face-off assignments. Maybe we're trying to create some scoring chances off the offensive zone face-offs. How we create chances off the rush. All those things we want to get better. Certainly not happy with anything, and even when we're, if we were fortunate enough to be on a 10-game winning streak, we're always looking to get better at something. So right now I mentioned those things that we're working on. Now we're going to be moving on, maybe some more offensive principles.
Noticed in the locker room this morning there was a bit of a shift with the players. The D were all sitting together. They'd moved some things around. Is that a coach-driven thing, or is that something that the players have decided to do? Where does that come from?
No, it came from the coaches. Paul and I were talking, and I just think we want stability. We want players communicating, talking, and it's the defensemen want them together, and they're talking about their plays, their situations, and learning. We want X sitting beside Bush or close by him so they can have conversations because they're on the ice. Same with the forwards. Also for the coaches, when we walk into the room, usually we have a message for the defenseman. we want to look at the defense when we talk to them, and then we talk to the forwards. And I just think it's so much easier, and it's pretty much all communication driven.
You're starting to mess with superstitions. Any pushback from the guys? Players can be funny about that kind of stuff sometimes.
Pardon?
Any pushback from the players? Because that can be a superstition type thing.
Well, I don't think it'd be too hard on a superstition. I see guys who I think would be upset with their play and the team success. So I think, obviously some guys feel comfortable with those in their place, but I think right now we could use a little change.
Dave?
All right, there was Chris Knoblauch, his press conference from earlier. Nasty Chat getting nasty about this, saying these pressers are snoozers. Another one from Jeff saying our press asks the most moronic questions. Jeff, believe it or not, that's across the board in every market, in every sport. So I appreciate that, but it's about standard, to be honest with you. All right, let's go back inside the Oilers locker room and hear from Evander Kane as Penny tries to knock my phone off the desk. These dogs, I tell you. Let's go to Evander Kane.
Wins together, the more confidence is going to kind of come back. What's the difference between 2 wins and 3 wins for where this group is at right now?
Well, I think obviously we got our first win at home the other night. It's the first time we've had a so-called winning streak all season, so obviously we're feeling good. I think we're, like I said before, the belief in our group and what we can do on the ice has never wavered. Obviously the results haven't been there throughout the course of this first part of the season, but it's up to us to change that. Got to keep that going tonight.
When you have a new coach, I don't know if I say what are you looking for, but how's the feeling out process for you, a veteran guy, with a new guy in the NHL?
Yeah, I've had a lot of new head coaches in the course of my career. He definitely has a calming presence. He's come in and quietly kind of implemented a few small tweaks to our game. Obviously, being with Woody for the last couple of seasons, we did a lot of things the same way for a long time and are kind of used to that. And I don't think he's trying to come in here and change too much, but just give us maybe some different ideas and some different looks that can maybe help us get rolling here. And obviously, the other night I thought we did a good job of sticking with the game plan we wanted to execute. We didn't have it early, but we stuck with it and didn't make any of those big mistakes, so we got rewarded.
This isn't necessarily a comment on what the other coaches did, but the other night, you guys had a pretty good lull in the second period, but he just kind of kept rolling you out there, didn't necessarily tinker a lot, and said after that he doesn't want to be moving the lines around a ton. I guess as a player that's trying to find it with a line, is that a good thing when you know that your next shift will likely be with the same guys?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Woody and Mans, they did a phenomenal job while they were here, and different styles that he would kind of come up with 11 and 7 or whatever. But obviously, I think from a traditional hockey aspect, playing with the same line throughout the course of a game or a couple of games can definitely help and create some chemistry and create some familiarity on a consistent basis. Obviously, you're never going to start with the season with the same line that you end it with and play all 82 games. But like I said, I thought he brought a calming presence to the room, and there wasn't a lot of panic.
The other places you said you've been through a few this before with a new coach. Could you see it coming in the places you're at before? Buffalo, did it happen when you were in Buffalo?
It happened, but not in season. There might have been a couple of times, I think maybe in Winnipeg when Paul Maurice came in. But no, I definitely didn't see this one coming. Another one that comes to mind is probably in San Jose when Pete got let go. So yeah, it's definitely surprising to wake up and see that for sure.
One of the natural results is maybe a bit of a feeling of reset for guys. You got a different head coach, clean slate maybe in some ways. Is it important to, if that can be an advantage for guys, for everybody to feel that way and to dig in?
Yeah, I think anytime a new coach comes in, the slate's wiped clean. You're able to make a first impression with your game and try to build on that as this coach's tenure carries on forward. So I'm sure some guys and are excited about that. Some guys want to take advantage of that, and I think it's important to kind of establish some roles here as we move forward. And I think we've done a good job of that so far since Nauber's come in.
All right, that was Evander Kane describing his new head coach and if he had seen that move coming, and then going back to times throughout his career where he has had a coaching change mid-season. A couple of texts that I wanted to get to, actually, in the inbox, 780-218-9999. We heard earlier Chris Knoblauch talking about how he and Paul Coffey changed the seating arrangement in the locker room. Defense sitting on one side together, all the forwards on the other side, goalies still on their respective ends. Text comes in, says, The Athletic did an article on the seating arrangement for the Golden Knights, and they arranged by positions too, and the players loved it. And then Lacombe Drew also brings up or that was Lacombe Drew who sent that in, actually. And then another text from Donnie M says, Hey, TG, how do you think Yamo is going to do tonight? How has his year gone so far? Yamamoto, 2 goals, 2 assists so far in 16 games. He is -6. He did play on the first line on Saturday against the Oilers. He is lining up tonight on the fourth line alongside Pierre-Edouard Bellemare and Ty Karche. So it hasn't been a very productive season for Kyler Yamamoto, but by all accounts, he does the little things right. You heard Cass talk about that a lot the last couple of seasons, about Yamamoto's time in Edmonton. At least that part of his game is consistent. The other thing that's consistent is he doesn't always create a ton of offense, at least so far as a member of the Seattle Kraken. So they like him. He earned his keep out of training camp. And you know what? He can bounce around all over the lineup. Tonight, fourth liner. The other night on Saturday, he was a first liner against the Oilers. So we'll see. Maybe he'll be inspired to have a big night in his old hometown or his old stomping grounds against the Oilers. But we know he can be clutch. We saw it in the playoffs last year against the LA Kings. He can rise to the occasion. And no, he's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy, not the strongest guy, but he works his butt off, and it gets rewarded every now and then with the offense and good moments in the game. So Kyle Yamamoto, tough go so far, Donnie, but we'll see. Maybe he has a big one against his old club tonight. Oiler fans probably hoping it's more of the usual and donuts across the board offensively for former Oiler Kyler Yamamoto. All right, we're going to go inside the Oilers locker room one more time. We do have Mike Benton coming up from the Kraken Audio Network right away. But first, let's hear from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Remedy for you guys starting to feel a little more normal again?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with where we're at record-wise, we haven't been able to do that yet this season. So we strung 2 together, 2 pretty solid games. I thought last game we just did a good job of just sticking with it. It wasn't an easy game, and we knew that coming in, but thought we did a good job of sticking with it. And yeah, I mean, we want to keep rolling here, especially at home. We got to establish this place a hard building to come into.
You guys, as a group, I think have a ton of confidence. You did coming into this season. How long do you think it takes to put that back in place, to kind of just rekindle and get back to where you were before confidence-wise?
Sometimes it takes a game. Sometimes it takes a period or two. I thought in Seattle, scoring early and scoring a few early helped us a lot. Felt like, okay, we can do this again. We can put some in, and because obviously it's kind of been part of the struggle is just being able to find goals, and so to be able to break through like that, I think does a lot for your confidence. And then against the Islanders, we were putting a lot of pucks on net, and we were getting some good chances, but it wasn't going in. But I thought our confidence was there to just be able to stick with it and ride it out.
Ryan, you mentioned just sticking with it. It seemed to me you played a very patient game, especially in the second period. Correct me if I'm wrong. Had that gone away a little bit? Were you playing a little impatient or risky at sometimes this year?
Well, I think we did a better job of just not letting small breakdowns cost us. I think that's kind of what was happening early in the season, and for the first 10 games, I guess, just these little breakdowns was really costing us. It seemed like we'd be playing well, and there would be a mistake here and there, and all of a sudden it's in your net, and you're down 2 or something, and you're chasing it. So we did a better job of not letting those. Because there's always going to be breakdowns, there's always going to be mistakes, but you got to be able to cover for each other and need a big save once in a while, like we got from Stu. And so obviously it's a lot easier when you're not chasing it, and you can be a little more patient in your game.
The city wasn't obviously going to try and change too much in the early going, but what do you immediately notice as different within there?
Well, I mean, obviously still early, but. Just his demeanor is a little different. He's very calm. He's very calm back there. Very even keel. Obviously thinks things through. I mean, been a coach for a long time and has a lot of experience at different levels. So excited to see kind of where he can take us, but obviously still getting to know him. But definitely his demeanor is calm and seems like a very smart guy.
A bit of a shift in here. There's people sitting in different places and such. Is that him? Is that you guys? Or how does that dynamic work in here?
I guess it's something that they just wanted to change up, kind of put the D together, and then have the forwards kind of filter throughout. But I think that was just a small change that doesn't affect too much. It's just kind of sitting beside somebody new, but I think they just kind of wanted the D to all be together.
All right, there's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins talking about the vibes in the room, and then the change to the seating arrangement as well. Keep those texts coming in, 780-218-9999, and the nasty chat. I've been keeping tabs. Yes, the alarm is off now, and thankfully Penny's fine. She's sleeping on the couch in the studio office here at the EST Satellite Studios. Mike, the Michigan fan, says, fire alarm. Is Awanek trying to cook again? Well played. Well played. Surveyor Brett says he's making cereal, that Awanek. So, yeah, all is well. Penny's fine, and she's asleep on the couch. Adorable. Adorable. My dad's texting, and he's very frustrated that Penny gets whatever she wants. Settle down, Reno. Just be glad she's not with you right now. Let's go to our next guest. It is Mike Benton from the Kraken Audio Network. I had a chance to catch up with Mike earlier because he hosts the Kraken pre- and post-game show on their radio channels. So here he is, Mike Benton, with yours truly earlier in the day. All right, pleased to be joined by the studio host from the Kraken Audio Net on the Kraken radio broadcast, my good friend Mike Benton, all the way from Seattle. Mike, we lock up and get together every time the Oilers and Kraken meet. We seem to. I know we had Everett on the other day. You were a busy guy, so I didn't want to bug you too much. But what's going on with the Kraken right now? I know we saw that game on Saturday, and the Kraken have just one win in the last 5 games. What have you noticed about their play heading into tonight?
Yeah, that was a clunker certainly last Saturday as far as the Kraken were concerned. And the issues on this team, they're 5-8-3 right now, and we're hearing a lot of the chatter. You know, you are who you are. We're almost at that Thanksgiving benchmark. But, Tom, you can understand why they're here in this position right now. Last season, they had health. This season, they've been missing Andre Burakovsky since the first week of the season. Brandon Tanev just came back since getting knocked out opening night. Jordan Eberle, though a slow start, he's been banged up too. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who is supposed to play a serviceable fourth-line role and a role guy, he's been out last 3 games. He was brought in as well to help make a difference here on this team. But aside from that, this team last season led the league in offense at 5-on-5. This season, at this point right now, they're in the minus as far as goal differential. Matty Beniers, last year, Calder Trophy, 1 goal in 16 games. Jordan Eberle, 1 goal, 13 games. Eeli Tolvanen, 3 goals in 16 games. I mean, really, outside of Jared McCann and Jaden Schwartz and maybe Oliver Bjorkstrand, this offense right now has short-circuited. They can't have that if they want to be a playoff team. They were going 4 lines deep last season. They had Daniel Sprong in the 4th line, playing roughly 13 minutes a night and scoring 20 goals last year. So, I mean, Dave Haxtell said flat out right now the issue is that they have to work through it. It sounds cliche, but it's true. They have to get back to executing. Transition play for them matters. Skating to retrieve pucks and keep possession. Going in the offensive zone matters. Checking hard to get it back matters as well. A lot of those habits have been inconsistent or just been flat out gone over these last 5 games here. So, yeah, we're getting into a pretty important stretch here coming up, despite the Kraken just 1 win in 5 games. And getting past this one, they've got 4 games, next 6 outings against teams who have losing records. So important points are on the table right now.
Mike, it's important to get scoring. It's important to get depth scoring. And at the same time, you need to keep pucks out of your net. We can talk about that all we want to hear in Edmonton, because that has been an issue since the outset of the season. But with this goaltending tandem in Seattle, Philip Grubauer got chased after the first period in Seattle when the Oilers got 4 on him. A natural hat trick from Zach Hyman. It looks like it's going to be Joey Daccord today. I saw him at the morning skate. He was in the starter's net. What's going on with these 2 goalies when they're being tested by this, with the Seattle defense, giving up opportunities and then finally them being the last line of defense?
Well, I think you raised a great point, Tom, as far as your goaltending. And oftentimes you can't let a goalie hang out to dry when you're giving up odd man rushes. And I think that was the first domino that fell in the game last Saturday against Edmonton. I mean, Philip Grubauer's numbers have been very inconsistent against Edmonton, and I think a big reason why Joey Daccord is set to start here tonight, but also is to go back and give him a bit of a press of confidence. You go back and think of Monday when the Kraken were, just as sluggish trying to push shots on goal on the board. A lot of those goals that got by Daccord weren't exactly his fault. I think maybe if you want to look at one from I think the standpoint of criticism, the one odd man rush goal to Jonathan Drouin, he could have easily had, but Brandon Tanev said it himself after the game where they've been letting him hang out to dry. The first 2 goals were scored, front of the net battles, those were lost. Zach Hyman's last 2 goals against the Kraken in the game last Saturday, those were lost battles as well at the front of the net. Give him credit. He did his job to muscle up and find a way to get a loose puck. The Kraken, though, had been challenged defensively to try to clear bodies out of the way. I think also just going back to Monday, Cale Makar scored a goal where Daccord couldn't see anything. He had the whole wall of traffic right in front. There's nothing that he can really do about that. So it's funny. I mean, the last 2 years, we've been talking about, how good this team could be if goaltending was much better. They were on the struggle bus this first year of expansion, got a little better last year, had ups and downs with their moments, but goaltending was a big reason why they got into the second round. Philip Grubauer was one of the best players on the ice in that 7-game series against Colorado. This season, it's really been the least of their concern, if you can think how funny enough that is here. And I would give credit here to Steve Briere for the job that he's done, both with Grubauer and with Daccord. So, I think with Joey Daccord, the work that he's put in, getting a solid year under his belt as the guy in Coachella Valley, I think did wonders for his game. We saw him make saves, make them with confidence early in this season. Really only about, I'd say 2 or 3 goals he's given up that, he really would want to have back, he should have had. And also, he does a great job of playing the puck. And Vince Dunn said, when you have a guy playing back there like a third defenseman, it makes their job a whole lot easier here. So I'm curious to see how Daccord responds here for tonight. He's a goaltender who's got a lot of swagger. He's got a lot of confidence as well. One bad game doesn't seem to really phase him. And again, I say, I don't go back to that Monday game and thinking that was so much his fault. But how do you respond after a loss? I like his chances here, but this first period is going to be very, very telltale against Edmonton.
Mike Benton joining us now from the Kraken Audio Network as we get set for the Oilers and the Seattle Kraken facing each other for the second time in 5 days. Mike, how much of that playoff series and the season in general that Seattle had last year do you think factors into maybe some of the early season struggles this year for Seattle? Because they're not catching anyone off guard anymore. Maybe they do have a bigger target on their back. Do you think that is a big factor right now?
Absolutely. And they've said it themselves back in training camp that they can't play last season with that same mindset like this year. Everyone knows who they are. They have an identity. And when you have an identity, teams understand and know how to appropriately game plan for it. Right. So it's a cat and mouse game, and how the Kraken respond is going to really play a big part in how to get this thing turned around right now. And I think for a guy like Matty Beniers, who scored over 20 goals last season and said hello to the hockey world and the NHL world as well, he's higher up now on the board as far as game planning. He's got to fight his way through, constant body contact, checking and what have you. And even then we've seen as well for the first few weeks here, a few teams have begun to take some liberties after the whistles, and that became a little bit of a concern here for this team as far as who would respond. You have players like Vince Dunn taking matters into his own hands, Jared McCann taking matters into his own hands, but then again, it brings up the question, do you want to have your 40-goal guy fighting battles like that? That's a risky proposition here, so it has got to come from a collective effort. When you see a guy get knocked down, someone's going to get mad. You're going to see the hornet's nest stirred. We saw a little bit of that as well in the Colorado game, and the Kraken and Avalanche. They've got their own, battle, struggle, what have you, going on right now. But again, it goes right back here to the bottom line. When teams know how to get under your skin, how do you react? And now we're seeing this team appropriately be challenged. And, a couple times they've wasted no time jumping into scrums. That's a positive sign here, I think, for this team, understanding that they're going to get attacked. How do you respond? That's a big, big key right there. And then secondly, I go back again to the 5-on-5 offense thing here, Tom. Right. It's kind of amazing being that they're still 4 points out of a playoff spot, not the most ideal position. We still wonder, once that light bulb comes on here for Matty Beniers, whether it's inside his head or on his stick right now, you're going to see fortunes turn around. Andre Burakovsky, who has resumed skating, that could potentially make a big impact for their top six and their power play here. So they've got to have health back on their side. Production's there on the power play, but ultimately with health and with depth, plus better goaltending, you might see better results coming here sooner than later.
Mike, we are going to, it looks like, see Jordan Eberle back in action after suffering a laceration to his leg. Scary play in practice. I think it was Jaden Schwartz he got caught up with. Brandon Tanev, who did not play Saturday as well. And then, like you mentioned, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. What kind of injection into the lineup are those three, and how can they tilt the scales in favor of the Kraken tonight?
Well, one thing that stood out to me about Brandon Tanev was, for a team that had been struggling with effort, and Dave Hackstall laid into them at practice Sunday, it was Tanev, his energy, his straightforward approach, and a simplified game. I thought that really stood out to me, and I thought this is where this team has got to get back as far as the bedrock of its game. And lo and behold, he scores the first goal of the game. So, he could stand to make a major impact if they want to make a big run at this come period one and then build on that here. Jordan Eberle has had a slow start. He had a similar slow start last year as well, too. But, I thought about this, and I couldn't help but really kind of dig deep mentally and think of the last 5 games, this team going through the ups and downs and a lot of downs. How much would his voice have mattered in that dressing room? It was big last season for them. It was big in the playoffs. And more often than not, you're going to get honesty out of Eberle, but also when you're going through a rough patch, he's going to say, hey, guys, calm down. This is not as bad as you think it is. And we find this team able to self-regulate. So I think that addition and alone is big right back there. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who's brought in to play a depth role on their fourth line. He's been great at winning faceoffs. We've seen him after practice work with some of the players, the younger guys as well. We've seen a bit of an uptick now for Matty Beniers and his numbers. Bellemare's a big part of this penalty kill, and we all know you win a face-off here for special teams, you're getting matters and the game flow going in your direction immediately here. So it's a chain effect here, if you will, that they get with Bellemare back. And not to mention as well, he's got energy. He exudes it. He's one of the most positive guys. He's not afraid to speak his mind and speak up and really give, again, raw honesty, but give positive perspective, as I like to call it here, if you're coming off a bad loss. So I think 2 principal people besides Tanev and his obvious energy that you're putting back in, which this room could really use right now.
Mike Benton from the Kraken Audio Network joining us now, getting set for the Oilers and Seattle. Kyler Yamamoto, 4 points through 16 games. He was on the top line the other night in Seattle on Saturday, and then it looks like he's going to be lining up on the fourth line. What's going on with Kyler Yamamoto in his time in Seattle, Mike?
Well, we've seen the Kyler Yamamoto at times that can become a 20-goal guy like he was back in Edmonton, and he's able to use his speed, his shiftiness, handle the puck with confidence, and Dave Axtell called him in a win at Tampa Bay, which was one of the big ones of the season. Not an easy place to win. He was our best forward out there, and there were plenty of players that had a strong game out there against Tampa Bay when they won in sudden death overtime. The issue here for Yamamoto is consistency. I would like it here. I would liken it maybe to where he can find a consistent spot on this team as far as new line mates. He's a new face in this room, and not to absolve him here for every game that, where he goes scoreless, because he has to play a big part. Like in the absence of Daniel Sprong, to find depth scoring. And that right now is still a work in progress for him. But it doesn't really help when you're shuffling around, and a lot of this is due to injuries, where you're finding yourself on, say, Matty Beniers' line one day, if you're finding yourself maybe, say, for instance, on Alex Wenberg's line the very next day, or where he's been off and on with Pierre-Edouard Bellemare here. So Yamamoto's told me before that, he lost his confidence after last season in Edmonton. The injuries were playing a big part of that.
Right.
It is slowly beginning here to come back to him. And I think what he needs right now is just a few games of consistency. I think something that he can find routine as far as his level, his environment, and you'll begin to see points come more and more and more for him. That's important. No one's asking him to go out and score 25 goals, score 30 goals here. All they're asking for him is energy and consistency. Those points are going to come. We've seen him before on power play time where he's been very, very effective, and so he's got the aptitude to play there. But ultimately, right now for him, like the rest of this entire team, it comes down to finding one level of constant, and that's what I think is separating him from that next level.
Yeah, Yamamoto, a guy that does a lot of little things right, and that's something we talked ad nauseum about here on our pre and post game show in the last couple of seasons, and we'll see. Usually it comes. We did see him miss a lot of great opportunities playing with Draisaitl and McDavid, Mike, but maybe he changes his fortunes in Seattle. All right, having said all of that, Seattle looking to get back into the win column, dropping their last couple of games. The Oilers have put together back-to-back wins for the first time this season, looking to make it 3 in a row. What type of hockey game are we seeing tonight? Is it going to be similar to what we witnessed on Saturday, or are we going to see a totally different ball game here?
Well, if we witness what we saw Saturday in the first period, the Kraken are going to be in a world of trouble right now, because that first period really woke them up, and we heard it from corner to corner of that dressing room where they can't have an effort. And I almost kind of got the feeling that Sunday was going to be a scheduled off day, and then upon the final horn, Dave Axtell said, not so fast. And Jared McCann told me we didn't deserve to have a day off, paraphrasing that after the effort that they had on Saturday here. So again, I go back and think this is kind of cliche. We heard this again in the Colorado game. They've got to have a good first period. They had it Monday, but now for me, the next question is, how can they build on that? The Kraken have been great at starting out strong. They've scored the first goal 11 of 16 games here for this season, but they have only 3 wins right now to show for it when they lead after one period of play. So it's that level of consistency. How much are they skating? How much are they going to move their feet, stay out of the box, especially against this Edmonton power play, and keep their feet moving, check hard, and really find a way to tap back into their identity as a heavy forechecking team. If they can build on that for period 2 and period 3 on that side, they're going to be well on their way.
It's another Pacific showdown between the Oilers and the Kraken tonight down at Rogers Place. Mike Benton, always a pleasure, sir. Great to catch up with you. Let's do it again the next time these two teams play. How does that sound?
I'm game, my friend. You the same. Thank you so much.
That's Mike Benton from the Kraken Audio Network. Fantastic stuff there from our good buddy Mike. And yes, TV magic. I'm all of a sudden wearing a tie again. Yeah, we recorded that earlier in the day just because Mike is on the air on the Kraken Audio Network right now doing the pre-game show, and he'll do the post-game show as well. So very similar roll to what we have here at the Oil Stream pre and post game show. But Mike, I remember from his days with the Stockton Thunder when he was the play-by-play voice of the Thunder, and they were an affiliate of the Sharks and the Oilers in the ACHL at the same time. So Mike and I go way back, and I remember him being at the Young Stars Classic in, I think, 2011. Jack Michaels texting in now. Oh boy, funny. Thanks for watching, Jack. Appreciate it. You should be focusing on the game that you're about to call in 15 minutes, but all good. It is indeed Joey Decord going toe-to-toe with Stuart Skinner. 4 games on the NHL schedule tonight. Let's get you up to speed on the other one that is underway. 2-0 Philly leads Carolina after 1. We're going to see the Oilers and the Kraken just after 6:30. And then the Ducks are in Colorado. Meanwhile, the Canucks welcome Bo Horvat and the New York Islanders to town. That will be the late game. Read a text here. This one says, "Hey, Tom, I think it was Sunday or Monday that you mentioned that some in Oilers hockey ops below the leadership tier were quite surprised / unhappy with the timing of moving Jay out after the 1 win. Any sense of softening after a few days of Knoblauch?" Yes, there was some unhappiness and surprise. You've heard some players, Evander Kane earlier in the show from his pregame presser said he was surprised as well. So even players, and I don't know. I'll follow up tonight in the press box and have some chats and kind of get a sense of where everyone's at. I don't know if they're going to be comfortable telling me, but I mean, if they're comfortable enough to tell me they weren't too happy and they were surprised, then I'm sure they would be okay with following up with that. Okay, let's go inside the Kraken locker room really quickly, and we're going to hear from their head coach, Dave Hackstall.
Team from playing the game that you want to see.
Well, we've had some nights where we've played very well and very consistently throughout. Our last couple nights haven't been what we want them to be, so we've got to try to get back on that track here tonight.
Dave, all games important, but division matchups are a little bit more meaningful.
Yeah, you can't dig yourself too big a hole as you get into your divisional schedule. I mean, those that win-loss record, at the end of the year starts to add up pretty quick and dictates a lot in terms of potential playoff positioning.
Can you talk about your relationship with Chris Knoblauch when you worked together in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have gotten to know Chuck now a little bit. I mean, first of all, he's a great family man. He and his wife, great people. Just really well thought out. I mean, he's a guy that's gonna articulate things pretty well and communicate really well with his players, and very confident in the way he goes about his business. And he carries himself that way on a daily basis.
He said that he was going to take great comfort tonight knowing your mom was cheering for his Oilers.
I got bad news. I had dinner with her last night, and his stalwart fan has jumped ship, and she's cheering for the Kraken tonight.
Will she be wearing a Kraken sweater? Like, has she gone over that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You call him Chuck. What?
How's
the old baseball?
Chris, that's the old. That's no. Yeah, well. We haven't tested that out, but anyways, it was that was the easy nickname for him in Philly.
A lot of the players called him. Sorry, yes. A lot of the players said he's calm. Like, how would you define him as a coach? And
he is, and that's what I mean. I think he's really well thought out. I think he knows what he believes in. He communicates well, and he does that in a real calm way, in a direct way. And he's always been that way. That's who he is, and I believe he's pretty comfortable in his own skin in that way.
Jordan said that incident the other day was pretty scary. He's happy to be back on the ice. Can you just maybe thought on what happened and just having him back?
Yeah, I mean, it's those things they happen quick, right? And I think we all know that we were fortunate and he was fortunate. It could have been it could have been much worse. It could have been a different outcome. Those are the kinds of things that just they leave the building pretty quiet and pretty empty. Even coming out of a practice. So. We're fortunate, we're happy that he's been able to mend up fairly quickly. The doctors and Ebbs took all the right precautions, right, and taking the right steps to make sure that everything is internally healed up, and he's good to go. So that's a pretty good result from what it could have been 10 days ago.
Yeah.
And just having him back in the lineup, how big is that for this?
Yeah, he's obviously a leader for us. We don't have anybody that wears the C, but we've got some guys that we really rely on in that regard as leaders, and he's for sure he's one of them. So his presence in our room is really important.
You guys called up Andrew Podorowski yesterday. Just what aspects of his game made you want to bring him up?
Well, Potsy's a guy that he's been within the organization here for a couple of years, and his camp this year was really good. He's coming off an outstanding year where he was a leader down there for a real successful group, and the opportunity to have him come up I think is an important one. I think he's earned it, and if need be, we're in a back-to-back scenario. I don't expect him to be in the lineup tonight. But we know that he's a guy that can go in and provide the things that he does and do it confidently. He's a real intelligent, creative player that has some high-end offensive ability. So if we need him in the lineup, he'll be ready to go.
What's the first thing that went through your mind when you heard that Chris was all of a sudden got this job? Did you think, oh? Did it come out of the blue to you, or what did you think?
Well, I'll tell you the second thing. I can't say the first thing out loud. No, you know what? I was just happy for him. I mean, we've stayed in contact, and he's done a really good job. After his time in Philadelphia, he's done a nice job in Hartford. He's done the things that he's needed to do. He's taken all the necessary steps, and there's no perfect timing as to when that opportunity is going to come. This is the opportunity that opened up for him, and he's going to make good of it, and it's going to end up being great timing for him.
All right, there's Dave Hackstall, head coach of the Seattle Kraken, talking about his former colleague Chris Knoblauch. Both men going toe-to-toe for the first time against each other as head coaches in the NHL. Will it be Knoblauch and his Oilers, or will it be Hackstall, his mom, and the Kraken tonight down at Rogers Place? We shall see. It should be a doozy. Stuart Skinner and Joey Decord are your netminders. Adam Ernie in the lineup. Raphael Lavoie in the lineup after those two got called up on LTIR now. We saw Matthias Janmark and Dylan Holloway go on to LTIR. Meanwhile, Connor Brown not quite ready to play just yet, but he is getting close. That'll do it for the Oil Stream pregame show here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Again, like, share, subscribe, smash that thumbs up button if you're watching on our YouTube channels. And one more reminder that our EST merch pop-up shop ends tonight. It won't be open again, probably with some new stuff until January. But we just tweeted it out on our EST X channel, formerly known as Twitter. So if you're looking to get a hat or a toque or something for someone, a coffee mug maybe for Christmas, go check it out on our website, edmontonsportstalk.com. Big thank you to Mike Benton from the Kraken Audio Network, as well as Matty Kassian and YouTube Trev for making it happen tonight. For YouTube Trev and Matty Kassian, I'm Tom Gazzola saying enjoy the Oilers versus the Kraken. We'll catch you on the post-game show. Ciao for now.